What is going on, everybody in Wrestling Review Society's Facebook page, Real Pro Wrestling's YouTube page, I apologize, Wrestling Review Society's YouTube page, Real Pro Wrestling's YouTube page, and twitch.tv/HeelKevin. Guys, we have a great interview set for you guys tonight. You guys have been asking for this one ever since I dropped that video of, let's call it a brief encounter with Mr. JDX at the Riot Pro show. So we're going to get into all of that coming up in the next 45 minutes, guys. But just before I bring my guest on here, I want to take a chance to plug our amazing sponsors who make this show happen each and every time I turn this camera on. First of which is going to be A-Rock Designs. Guys, this is my wife's custom business. She makes all those cool wrestling cups you see floating around, whether it be wrestling related or non-wrestling related. Hit up A-Rock Designs on Facebook or arockdesigns.com and place all of your custom orders today. Also, guys, storefrontier.com/Wrestling Review Society for all of our merch. And lastly, Fission water bottles. Guys, this is our newest sponsor. This is a filtered flavored water bottle, and all the magic is in this white little filter right here. There's a dial on the front of it, 1 through 9, so if you want a little bit more flavor, crank it up. If you want a little bit less, turn it down, and if you want to save your flavor for later, you can turn it all the way off. But it does have energy infusion properties in it, guys, so it's going to help you get all throughout the day without that harsh crash. If that's something you're interested in the description of this video, you can find my link. If you use my custom link, you'll save 20% on your first order and 10% on every order after that. So with that being said, guys, and that out of the way, I want to go and get my guest on here because I'm really looking forward to being able to speak to him. This is one of the first, if not the first times we're going to speak since that happened. But we both agreed backstage, the last wrestler, I've only had 2 wrestlers ever put their hands on me. The last one, Bud Heavy. We all saw how that interview ended. We've agreed to keep this professional. I really want to get to know this man, and I want you guys to get to know him. So, ladies and gentlemen, the man with the self-proclaimed biggest arms in Florida wrestling. Let's see if that's the case. Ladies and gentlemen, JDX. JD, how you doing, man?
Good, man. What's going on?
Not much, man. Not much. How's your day, man? I know you just got off work, pulling extra duty with this interview. So, on behalf of me and the viewers, I want to thank you for doing that, man. But how's everything been going, man? It's been a while since Riots ran a show. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Life happens. Sometimes stuff comes up, stuff gets in the way. Just got to deal with it, really. That's just kind of where I'm at now.
Oh, no, absolutely, man. And I'm sure this thing called COVID that pretty much ran our lives for last year wasn't helping at all. No. But we started out with, you say you have the biggest arms in Florida wrestling, and I mean, I'm not in Florida wrestling, but I think mine are pretty big. I think I give you a run for your money. But I follow your social media pretty closely, man. You spend a lot of time in the gym, like a lot of time. What's a typical week like workout regimen look like for you? Because you pretty much you don't pay a gym membership, you pay them rent. Let's be honest. What does your typical regimen look like?
It really just kind of depends on like what my goals are. So right now I'm in a process of adding muscle. So, I'm going to be doing that for probably about, 6 weeks. And then I'll spend 6 weeks cutting weight so that way I don't have to cut too quickly. So it just depends on like what I got coming up that determines, how fast or how much, I need to do. But on average, probably about, if I'm trying to add muscle, maybe about 2 hours a day, about 5 days a week, cardio twice a day, every single day.
Dude, I hate cardio. I absolutely hate it, man. And we already got some comments coming in from the viewers that are watching. But before I get to those, I just got to ask, because I just started getting back into, going to the gym regularly through having 4 kids and work and everything. Everybody always makes excuses, myself included. So I have to ask, where do you find that motivation to keep driving forward, to keep going back to the gym on the days where you're not at 100%, with the days you don't want to get out of bed or the days you just don't want to deal with it? Where do you find that kind of motivation to just, keep putting one foot in front of the other?
Really, I just make it second nature. It's gotten to the point to where going to the gym is my therapy, man. If I don't go, if I don't start my day off with some type of physical activity, then I'm setting myself up to have a crappy day. I believe that, everybody's 3 parts. There's a physical part, there's a spiritual part, and then there's, a mental, emotional part. And you got to give time to all 3 parts, or else you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So it's a necessity. I have to do it. If I go a couple of days without going to the gym or doing something, I feel like I've committed a crime. So it's just second nature at this point.
I got you, man. I got you. So just a few comments in the comment section. Just want to show them some love before we move on. Aaron, a guy that frequents Riot Pro Wrestling, says, everybody keep professional. Look, JD and I have put that incident behind us. Yes, I may have been running my mouth a little bit. JD may be a little bit of a hothead, but we put it behind us. It's all good. But yeah, man, they lost their minds when that happened. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But, before we move off the topic of, your training and everything, one thing that was hard for me, and I realize it's hard for a lot of people, you're a pretty big dude. You say you have the biggest arms in Florida. There's people saying, put your money where your mouth is, show the guns off. But, did you ever struggle to gain weight, or was it always easy for you to build that muscle? Because it took me a long time to see any kind of results.
Yeah, it took a long time. The vast majority, I would say probably most of my life, I was actually just really, really fat. And I would
Same.
So I started out super skinny, got extra fat, got super skinny again, then got extra fat. It was a surgery I had when I was a kid that kind of started all of that. But as far as adding muscle, man, it took years. It took years. Not because the process takes that long, but because I didn't know what I was doing. Like when I started, I would go to the gym at 3 a.m. because there was a 24-hour gym because I didn't know how to lift. And during the day, people would make fun of me. They would laugh at me. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I was tired of being 300 pounds and having knee problems and back problems and being out of breath going down a flight of stairs. And, I didn't want to end up, dying sick or something like that. So I knew I needed to change. And I knew I wanted to one day become a wrestler. So, most of the muscle I got, I would say I probably actually put on in the past 3 or 4 years, even though I've been lifting for probably about 10 years. Because I finally figured out how to train, and that was the key.
That's kind of got to add to what I would think would add to the motivation, is because you have come so far and you don't want to start over from scratch. You want to keep driving up the mountain, not sliding down the mountain per se. But you say that you knew you wanted to be a pro wrestler. So I guess we'll start out where almost every interview starts out. When did you discover pro wrestling? Was it always a thing for you, or did you have other passions and other loves in life before coming to pro wrestling?
No, I was into a lot of other things. Wrestling was kind of one of those things I watched with my dad. I was never really into it like that. I mean, I knew who they were. I had some of the toys and the action figures. I was a kid, but it was never something that I was really into like that. I was more into like basketball, football, and just different things like that. Writing, always wanted to be a director, believe it or not. Wrestling was kind of the last thing. And I guess what made me change was I used to watch it with my dad, and then my parents ended up they got divorced for a while. So I didn't watch wrestling because my dad wasn't there. Mm-hmm. But years later, I went back to watching it, and there was this guy by the name of Bret Hart, and he was,
maybe you've heard of him.
Yeah, you might have heard of him. He went from being this tag team wrestler in the Hart Foundation, wrestling the Bulldogs and the Killer Bees and all these different guys, to being, like the guy. He was like the champion. And he wasn't, the biggest guy. He wasn't big as like Warrior or Hogan or any of those guys. Like, he wasn't big, and it just made me think, like, you can do that. I mean, you can change your position in life. You can go from being the opening guy to being like, the top guy in a company. And that just really just kind of motivated me. So, he stood out. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. And it's mainly because of
it's not a bad choice.
Accomplish. So,
and when you look at guys like Bret Hart and we got people saying Shawn Michaels in the comments and stuff like that, they weren't always like you said, they weren't the biggest guys. And I guess this kind of ties into wrestling and everything, but there for a long time we were taught to believe that if you wanted a career in wrestling, you had to be 6'5" and jacked to the moon. And then in comes Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and the Forbidden Name, guys like Chris Benoit and Eddie and stuff like that, who really weren't the biggest guys, but man, they could go.
Yeah.
Looking at the state of pro wrestling now, how much do you think that has influenced wrestling and getting away from that cookie cutter kind of build of a wrestler to showing everybody else that, hey, a guy that we both know, a guy like Remy, super talented, but he's never going to be the biggest dude in the locker room. So how do you feel like, the size differences in, wrestling opening up to these smaller guys? How do you feel that's changed wrestling for the better or for worse?
No, I definitely think it's made it better. Because, let's face it, guys like Remy, they can do things that,
so talented
that a lot of us, couldn't do. Now, don't misunderstand. Anything Remy can do, I can do. So let's just straighten that out. But man, some of the things that they can do it's incredible. And if you had a bunch of 275-pound guys, they're not going to be able to do all that stuff. So I think it's made it better. It's made it more exciting, and it gives you a blend, man. Like, not every match is a big man match. Not every match is a power match. There are some matches, like, even some of Remy's matches, man, where it just drops your jaw to the floor. So I definitely think it's made it much better and made it more exciting.
Got a comment from Sean Hawley, a guy that you know very well, says, "You can't copy my elbow."
Oh.
I don't think he wants to.
Nah, none of that. None of that.
But, getting back into you and your career and your road into pro wrestling, so you used to watch with your parents, and unfortunately they divorced, and you kind of got out of watching wrestling. When did you – so two-part question. When did you reintroduce yourself to it, and when did you really decide – because, you said you wanted to do these other things like directing and stuff like that, which also kind of goes to wrestling because it's storytelling, just a different kind of story. So my two questions for you are, when did you reintroduce yourself into wrestling, and when did you decide that is the direction you're going?
So as far as getting reintroduced to it, like, honestly, I just, I was just doing homework one day after school and just turned it on, and it was on, and just watched it, because there wasn't anything else really on. So, I watched it, and then, maybe I'll check it out next week. And then I checked it out again. It's like, okay, well, maybe I'll watch it next week. And then it started getting good. And I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden this thing called the NWO happened. And I'm like, wait a minute. I know these guys, but they were over here, and now they're over there, and now they're taking over. And I'm like, oh, this is good. This is like a soap opera for guys. I'm like, I
exactly what it is.
Yeah. So that's when I kind of got back into it right during that time. The thing that made me decide I wanted to do it was WrestleMania 12, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, the Iron Man match. I saw that match, and just the things that they did for an hour, and just the story that they told, and just to be able to have the crowd just in the palm of your hands, man, is the physical aspect, but then you also got the showmanship of it as well. And seeing both of those things perfectly married, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap. We got a question coming in from Ashlock209. Says, how long have you been wrestling?
So I've been wrestling officially 11 years. If you look at actual time, it's more like about 5 years, because I've had a couple really nasty injuries that took me out. So I had a serious neck injury, and I missed like 3.5 years worth of wrestling. I've broken my leg, had knee surgery not even a year ago. So I missed a considerable amount of time. So really it's about 5 years, but chronologically 11 years.
So, you bring up the neck injury and stuff like that, and taking you out for, almost 4 years, the better part of, 3.5 years. I have to ask, because I've never. So you and I were kind of talking a few days ago, and before I went to the military, I kind of did a little work here on the Georgia Indy circuit. Nothing major, but I never really had an injury like that. Maybe because I didn't do it that long. But I imagine an injury like that really changes you and really changes your perspective on a lot of things. Was there a big, I guess, almost like writer's block to get back into the ring? How did that injury affect you? And did it almost make you not want to go back to wrestling, or did you always know you were going back?
It was kind of both, man. It was the way it affected me. It made me bitter, to be perfectly honest. Because here, I got hurt, and it was kind of an old football injury, but I got hit just right in just the right spot, and that just set everything off. Like after the match, the adrenaline wore off, and I got home, and I had no feeling in my left arm. My whole left side started tingling and stuff, so it was scary. It was scary. I just reached to grab the remote to turn on the TV, and I just couldn't feel anything. So it was pretty scary, man. And it really made me bitter because I felt like I was kind of being forced out of something that I just started. Because at that point, I was only like 2 years in. And it's like, okay, now I'm being forced out, for something that's not even my fault. And I was bitter for a while. And, I got better. And tried to come back, and we have a neck injury, man. Nobody wants to touch you because they don't want to book you, and then you get hurt on their show because now they're liable.
Yeah.
So then nobody will book me. So, I wasn't really getting any reps. And part of the healing process is once you get far enough along is you got to test drive it. And since I didn't test drive it, it was like the injury flared up again later. So I ended up going into like a freaking neck brace, and it was pretty awful. And they told me, that I could go to rehab, do this and that, but fusion surgery might be in my future. For right now, I could avoid it, but that was that was pretty much it. But eventually, I got over being bitter, and decided that I was just going to make a comeback. And even if I had to work some small mud show, wherever I had to get in just to get a shot, I would take it. So that's what I did.
Do you ever, whenever you go into the ring and when you're wrestling and stuff like that, because you say that fusion surgery is maybe in your future, I'm assuming you haven't had it. Is that correct?
Right. Correct.
Okay. So going into the matches, because I've watched you wrestle I've had the pleasure of seeing you live about 3 times now. And one of the times I watched you, was my first time ever ring announcing, and you wrestled Vertigo in the main event of a Real Pro Wrestling show. And you both are 2 physical, really physical kind of guys. When you walk into a match, is that ever in the back of your mind, or have you been able to just kind of put it in its own little box and not let it bother you too much?
Yeah, exactly. You just kind of lock it away and just don't even think about it. Because if you think about it, then you're going to get hurt. So, and especially with a guy like Vertigo, that's a guy I've worked with, trained with, many times. So, I know I'm going to be good with him. But you just got to put it in your mind. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy watching Vertigo. That was my first time. I got introduced to Vertigo through another promotion, but that was the first night that I got to watch you wrestle. And I stand 6'5", and I'm not too big to, or I'm not too proud to admit it. I was the ring announcer for that night. As I'm going around getting everybody's height and weight and stuff like that, I just look over and I'm like, who is this guy just gonna demolish tonight? Because you really are a thick guy. Like, you are muscle bound like hell. And I just remember looking over at you. I'm like, who is this guy just gonna destroy tonight? And then I looked at then I saw the card and seen it was Vertigo, and the wheels started spinning in my head. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be fantastic. Yeah. You kind of talked about your favorite being Bret Hart. What other wrestlers kind of inspired you to adapt that, hard hitting, impose your will, almost a Brock Lesnar-esque kind of style what kind of wrestlers inspired you to wrestle the way you do?
You know what, man? Everybody. Bret Hart's my favorite, but clearly I can't wrestle, like him.
I don't think many people can.
Yeah. And also, I remember when I got to wrestling school, I was like, I'm going to be this great technical wrestler, and I'm going to do all of this and that. And then I looked around and saw I was bigger than almost everybody. And all of that just had to go right out the window. But I would say probably the people that inspired me the most, as far as like actual developing myself, Scott Hall, who I was able to train with for about a year. He really kind of helped me find confidence in myself. And a lot of the stuff I do, if you actually watch, it's a lot of the old Scott Hall stuff, because he was my, also one of my favorites, coming up. So, next time you watch any of my stuff, if you look, you'll notice I'm doing the old Scott Hall deal. So definitely Scott. And then as far as like what I do in the ring, I watch everybody. Like I watch just anybody, man. Anybody I could take something from. Watched a lot of Mike Awesome, a lot of Bam Bam Bigelow, a lot of Superstar Billy Graham.
You're the first person I had on this show to mention that, man. That is one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time.
Dude, just the stuff he was doing, man. Just
my first introduction to him is when he took that belt from Bob Backlund and just destroyed it. And from that point on, I wanted to know everything about this guy. And he had the look, he had the arrogance. The thing that got me about Superstar Billy Graham was I wanted to hold him down and shave his freaking sideburns. He made me so mad.
Yeah.
And it's little stuff like that, that obnoxiousness that I really feel wrestling is missing today.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that was always what I did. Like everybody today, I can't say everybody, but a lot of people today, if they're gonna study the current product, and that's that's fine. You should know the current product to an extent, but chances are you're not gonna be the next Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna be the next AJ Styles. So I try to always watch the stuff that nobody watches. I remember a couple years ago, everyone was watching Survivor Series like 2019 or whatever it was, because Brock Lesnar was on there. I was watching Survivor Series, 95. Because nobody else was watching it. And I was watching, I was watching Survivor Series 96. I was watching Psycho Sid, and just watching the way he would terrorize Shawn Michaels, and and how he would work that crowd. So that's kind of what I hang my hat on is I watch the old stuff that everybody else has forgotten about. And I don't watch as much of the current stuff because everybody else is doing it.
No, man, so I've really taken a liking to what AEW has been doing. WWE is getting really, really boring for me, but the NWA will always have a special place in my heart. Nothing in my opinion, nothing will ever come close to a Harley Race, Dusty, Flair, Steamboat kind of matches. And I love that kind of storytelling. Absolutely love it. But JD, we've been talking, and you say that overall 11 years, but actually about 5 years because of all the injuries and stuff. And I like to ask everybody this question because I get such an array of different answers, and I love seeing what you guys think on the flip side of the coin. So let's use the 11 years. If you can go back in time 11 years and give yourself one piece of advice that would have really helped you on your road into pro wrestling, what would that advice be? Something that you could have used as a feather in your cap for a rainy day. What would that advice be?
Oh, man, that's easy. Believe in yourself more, push harder, and do more.
The only one standing in your way is you.
Yeah, and dude, I'll tell you this. I don't not to toot my own horn, but for a long time, people would tell me, "Hey, you're good, you're ready," and I would tell them, "No, I'm not. Look at this guy, I can't do that. Look at that guy, I can't do that. I don't have this look. I don't have this." I always found the reasons of why I was not ready, and I missed a lot of opportunities. And the fact of the matter is a lot of those guys that were supposed to be better than me, man, they're all gone. They quit. None of them lasted. We all got injuries, but other than probably Chico Adams, I'm the only one who lasted. The only one who lasted all those years. Kept coming back. But that's the only thing I would say is just to believe in myself more and just push harder. Forget everybody else. Forget what everybody else says. Listen to your own voice and just do what you believe.
Yeah, and we got a lot of comments in this section. You say you don't want to toot your own horn, and everybody's just telling you to go ahead and toot away, man, because ever since I've advertised it, well, really, ever since I dropped that video of well, you remember the night. Ever since I dropped that video.
That was your fault, by the way, just so you know.
We're not going to point fingers here, JD. We're not going to point. I was a paying customer. I wasn't a wrestler. Anyway, we could joke about it now. That's all that matters. But they've kind of been looking back, and every time I announce somebody's going to be on the show, because I love doing independent talent. I've had the opportunity to interview, some bigger names with like the Fed and AEW and stuff like that. But I always love these independent interviews because you guys can literally come on here and say whatever you want. And that's the kind of stuff that I love. You get the true, real, raw roots of pro wrestling. And they've been looking into your stuff, man. And I probably get about 7 to 8 comments about you a day. What match should I watch of his? Well, and his stuff with Vertigo, his stuff with Zach's, it's all great. It's all fantastic. So I guess where we'll go from there is you have become a real mainstay with Riot Pro. And that's where I met you. Well, I originally met you at Real, but then you frequent Riot. What was it about Riot that really stuck out to you and really sunk its hooks into you? Like, this is my home. This is where I want to be.
It was an upstart company. And, the thing I liked is that they didn't play this, I'm going to bring in this former WWE guy or this former TNA guy. I'm not going to bring in all these former names. I'm going to be local. I'm going to use local talent. And, I'm going to give the local guys a shot. And I was one of those local guys that got that opportunity. The owner, God bless his soul. He was a good dude. He was a good dude. Wasn't, exactly into it as far as on the business side of things as he should have been. But man, he was just all about the local talent. And that was the thing that I really liked. And it was good, not to be paired up with former whoever who has already made his money. He's already made his name. So he's just going to, collect his pay. He don't got to do anything. He don't have to work hard. And, at Riot, it was, you got 2 guys, they're young, they're hungry, they both want to make a name for themselves, they both want to give the crowd their money's worth. So they're willing to go out there and kill it, and do whatever they got to do to send people home happy. And there weren't a lot of promotions that were like that. And that was the thing that I always liked about Riot.
I heard somebody say one time, and this has really stuck with me, and I can tell that you honestly believe this too. The independents are the roots of pro wrestling, and without the roots, the tree dies.
Yeah.
And that there's never been a more truer statement about wrestling, in my opinion. Going to some of the viewer comments, I really like this question. But it says, JD, as a fan who is just now being introduced to you as a performer, what would you say your crowning achievement has been in your career, or has it even happened yet?
That one's kind of tricky because, and like I always set lofty goals, and as soon as I check one off, it's like it's on to the next one. I don't even know if I could pick a moment. I'm trying to think, but I don't think I don't think I could pick out like a favorite moment or anything like that.
Yeah, and I like the fact that he says, has it happened yet? Because, you always have those goals, but you never want to say that this is my peak, because I personally believe, and this is just me as a podcaster, and I'm sure you as a wrestler, our best is yet to come. That's the kind of mindset you have to keep. But, getting back into what you were saying about, bringing in all of these formerly known as, or this person or that person, one of the things I really like about Riot, and I can honestly say this about Riot. I've been to about 3 Riot shows. I'll be going to my fourth Riot show coming up soon. We're going to plug that a little later. But I've never seen anybody leave unsatisfied. I've never had somebody leave going, that really wasn't worth it. And I typically hang around till the end because, I'm networking, trying to get people to do these interviews, handing out cards. So I mingle with a lot of the fans, and I've never heard somebody say that just wasn't worth my time. So there really is something special happening at Riot Pro. But I never understood why you would have these companies, bring in 10 to 15 formerly known as people who they're paying thousands of dollars for an appearance, but you have this homegrown talent that barely gets $5 in a hot dog.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the politics of pro wrestling that I don't understand, but I never understood why you would want to alienate yourself from the local talent who is going to be able to carry your company because they're still hungry.
Exactly. And I've been on those shows, man, and like I get it. I get why, you want to have your names, and not all of them are bad. There are some of them who, there's a few who, man, they will go in and work. There's a few, but those guys are rare. I'll tell you this, man, having been on a lot of those shows, I've been on shows where there's been 1 or 2, and I've been on shows where half the card is former WWE or something like that. It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating. It is demoralizing. Not because, you feel like you're inferior. Like, that's not why. But it's because that you're setting up the ring. You're doing a teardown. You're doing all of these different aspects to help this show run. Not to mention, you're probably going out there and killing yourself in your match or the hardcore match, whatever you're doing. And then you got this, this other guy who's probably bitter about the business, doesn't care about the business, and his envelope is 10 times thicker than yours. You know what I'm saying? And that's just demoralizing. It really is.
Yeah, I've actually been at a show, and I was delivering something to the show, and I had to go backstage to do it. And just as I'm passing through, I heard a former TV guy go, "Nope, I don't bump." Then why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, why are you here? We have a very interesting question because I don't think I could ever picture this. But we have a question from Ashlock saying, JDX, can you ever picture yourself as a face?
As far as that goes, like, I'm just me. Like, just honestly, I'm just me. Like, I'm always the same, whether I'm a face or a heel. I'm just the same person. Like, my intensity is the same. What I do is the same. So whether you cheer or boo, I guess, it's kind of up to you. And honestly, even as a heel, so to say, I get cheered more. Years ago, when I used to be a face, I got booed out of the building.
I think that might be just a little bit backwards, but that's you got to play the cards you're dealt, and sometimes that's just how it works. So while we're on this topic, let's talk about getting booed for a little bit, and talk about you being. Look, I'm man enough to admit it. The reason I got so vocal as I did is because you really are a great heel, and I have no problem saying that to you. Not to mention, Zach being one of my better friends. So obviously, I'm going to be a little bit more loud during his matches and stuff. But aside from, mine and your little altercation, you being the kind of heel that you are, have you ever had that before where, like, a fan will try to, like, charge the ring, or you'll be nose to nose with a fan or something along those lines?
Oh yeah, multiple times. Multiple times.
Any stories that stand out?
Dude, so I've been told multiple times you can't touch the fans. And I get why, liability reasons. And my response is always then tell them to stay in their place. They paid for a seat, tell them to stay in their seat. Craziest thing I guess would be is some guy was talking trash to me at a show, so I told him to come up, but I told him to come up front and say that. So he proceeds to walk up front, and I pie-faced him. And then I hear one of the other wrestlers go, "Dude, that was my dad."
No way.
Whoops. So,
oh, just pulling a 2009 Randy Orton move, huh?
dude, yeah. So I've been yelled at a lot of times for confronting fans. It's just like this, man. Like I'm just me, and a lot of times I know they'll think, oh, it's a good humor. He's just playing a character. No, I'm me. I don't play a character. I don't play a gimmick. I'm literally just me. And on any day of the week, if someone runs up into my face, trash talking me, I'm not just going to let them do it. So why would I let someone do it at a show? Absolutely not. So that's just how it is.
No, and like I said, I completely understand that. I, for one, I knew not to approach the ring, not only because, it's etiquette when you're at a show, but also there were like 6 of you in there. I mean, Mama didn't raise no bitch, but I ain't stupid either.
Right.
Let's just go and get that out of the way. And Ray's a pretty big boy. So, but we're sitting here talking about, you working, you being who you are and living the gimmick and really not the gimmick, but just who you are and it being real to you. And I think that's one of the big things missing in pro wrestling is people try to put on this act. And then once the bell rings, it's like the act is over. They get to put it down. So in your words, what do you think is missing from pro wrestling now that we had back in the day that we really need to focus on bringing back to make the product as a whole better?
Man, that's a big question. Probably the biggest thing, man, is just really a love for wrestling. I hear a lot of people, they'll say, "Oh, I love wrestling," but you can't get them to train. Mm-hmm. You can't get them to go to training to get better. You can't get them to get in shape. But you love this thing so much, you're not going to admit yourself to being better. So like, and people they don't put in time on the mat. They don't put in time in the gym, and they'll say, "Oh, well, Kevin Owens doesn't work out." Yeah, but it's Kevin Owens. He's an anomaly. Even when he was working as Kevin Steen, that guy was an anomaly. You know what I'm
He's
saying?
The unicorn.
Dude, his wrestling IQ is, but there's not, everybody's not going to be him. So he's that exception, and sometimes you can make that work, but the rest of us, we gotta put in the work, and people don't put in time doing film. And one of the things when I first decided, hey, I'm actually going to try to go to a wrestling school, is I made myself a promise that I would dedicate any spare time I had to studying a match or studying promos. I made that years ago before I started, and I still do that today. So every day, I'm watching matches just for little tidbits, that I can take, or I'm watching promos, or I'm reading comments about promos. Mm-hmm. I'm always looking for something to make me better. Because that's where the real joy is, honestly, as corny as it sounds. Like, when I go to the ring, I'm demonstrating all the work I put in. Some people think, it's show day, so now I get to show out, I get to do this, I get to do all of that. And I think those people look at it wrong. For me, it's like taking the exam. Okay, this is how I've been eating. This is how I've been training. This is how I've been lifting. This is what I've been watching. This is what I've been thinking. Let's put it all together. Let's see if it works.
No, absolutely. And based off of, your answer, I do have, some questions off of that because you have such an alert mind for wrestling. Like, things just stand out to you that other people don't really quite catch. And I can see that just by talking to you. So going back to the beginning of your answer, Kevin Owens being an anomaly, being the unicorn, and people just thinking, oh, well, he doesn't do it. I don't have to do it either. I can be just like that. I feel like that's the wrong attitude to have. And not only is it the wrong attitude to have because you're just looking for the lazy way out, but I feel it's disrespectful not only to the business, but also to the people you get in the ring with, because you are asking them to trust you with their body, yet you are not doing the things you need to do to be trusted with their body. So I just feel like that's the wrong kind of mindset to have. But getting into the promos, because I have seen some of your promos. I've seen, ever since I started going to Riot and pretty much everything after. I followed you very closely, everything after the Vertigo match, because that's when I was introduced to you. And much like a guy by the name of Logan Cruz, one half of the Gifted, not sure if you're familiar with him or not, but the way he puts the things he does with his promos, you and him are like right there, because it's not just, oh, let me turn the phone on in the car and just talk for 10 minutes. We need to set the setting. It needs to be believable. How important is it? Because I feel like a lot of people focus on the in-ring stuff and maybe they focus on the gym stuff, but I feel like the promos is where people really lack. How important is it to really hone your craft on the microphone just as much as in the ring?
Man, I'll tell you like this. You either got to be an incredible worker or you got to be able to talk. If you're an incredible worker, people will forgive the fact that you can't talk. But if you're a great talker, they will overlook the fact that you're not a good worker. So, and if you can do them both, then you're money. So I would say being able to talk is way more important than being able to wrestle.
So we have a lot of people that are in this chat. We have a lot of people that watch these interviews to really soak up the knowledge like you were talking about. A lot of them looking to find wrestling schools and make their first steps onto their pro wrestling journey. If you were to offer any kind of advice to those guys or anything that they might need to know or things they should focus on, what would your advice be to somebody who is wanting to pursue this as a career?
So you can kind of chop it up into parts. The first advice I always give to anybody who's thinking about wrestling is always tell them, figure out what price you're willing to pay, not in terms of money, but like mentally and emotionally and physically. Figure out what price you're willing to pay up front. And once you figure that out, don't negotiate. Like when I started training, I had to drive from Northside Jacksonville down to Orlando. So from where I was, it was a 2.5 hour drive one way. So, but I did it twice a week. So 2.5 hours down, train for 3 hours, 2.5 hours back. And I worked both days. So I would get out of work, go to wrestling, come back, sleep for like 3 hours, then get up and go to work all day. But I was willing to pay that price. And I spent a hell of a lot of money in gas, probably about $170 a week.
Jesus.
Gas. But I was willing to pay that price, and I didn't negotiate that. And just so that's the first piece of advice I would give anyone. Like, don't say, oh, it's too far, it's too this, it's too that. Figure out what price you're willing to pay, and then once you do that, negotiations are off. You start, you gotta go through with it. So that's the first thing I would tell anyone. The second thing is just study anything. Study anything. Like, there's gyms in everything. Absolutely everything. Like, if we use promos, for example, like, it's real easy to get in the camera and yell, and I'm going to beat you up, and I'm going to hit my move, and your ass is grass, and I'm going to do. It's real easy. Anybody can do that. But that's boring. Like, I put such a ridiculous amount of time into studying promos. Like, I don't just watch promos. I'll go to show recaps, and I'll go into the comment sections and just look at everybody fighting with each other and just look at all the trash you're talking. And I'm like, oh, this guy really got that guy. That's something I could possibly use. So I literally just keep a bank of content in my head as well as on paper. So that way, when I need to cut a promo, or I need to, whether it's I'm filming it or whether it's live, I already have so much stuff that I can say that I don't even have to think. It's just automatic. You can get material from watching SpongeBob. The material's everywhere. You just got to be alert enough to pull it out.
So who are some of your favorite promo artists? Because, we kind of talked about, who your in-ring influences were. When you go back and you're watching these promos, whether it be professional wrestling or independent wrestling, because for me, it always comes down to, Piper, Jake the Snake, and Dusty. And occasionally a Flair. I just feel like Flair is such a common choice. But when it comes to the microphone work, who are some of your favorite influences?
Man, another tough question. If I had to pick like one person to watch right now, probably Macho Man. Because a lot of his stuff was simple, but I love the way he would use props in his promos.
The coffee creamer.
No, dude, nobody does that stuff anymore. Nobody does it. You can't even get them to hold the camera on their phone the right way. It
drives me crazy.
And bro, he would cut his promos, and he was so into his own world that even though what he said might have been nonsense, you believed it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he delivered it, you could tell he believed what he was saying.
He spoke with such conviction that it made you believe it.
Exactly. So
he could have told you the sky was purple, and you would have walked outside like, I didn't know that shit was purple.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So he's probably one of my favorites to watch. But if I had to pick one person, so Samoa Joe, just because when he would deliver a promo, there was just bad intentions in it. Like, no matter what he said it with such disdain and seriousness that you couldn't doubt him. You couldn't doubt him. And, like even Bret Hart, like his promos were always, the typical babyface promos, but they were always very passionate. And if he said he was going to beat you, he beat you. He did whatever he said. So, so those are probably some of my favorites, but I watch absolutely anybody and everybody when it comes to promos.
So we're getting close to, we're actually over the 45-minute mark. I do have a few more questions for you. Then I want to talk about the show coming up. But my final question for you before we start talking about the next Riot show coming up, JD, what gets you excited on show day? Is it the match? Is it the crowd? Is it a combination of everything? When you show up to that venue and you're on the card, what is it that just drives you absolutely crazy more than anything else, that just inspires you to do better each and every single time? What lights the fire of JDX?
So that's probably threefold. So number one is proving myself right. Just knowing like whatever I've been doing, like the preparation I put in, knowing that it's going to pay off. And just kind of believing in myself and taking a bet on myself, because we know the world is full of haters. It's full of haters. It's full of people who want to go on Facebook and cry and talk trash, and put you down and run you down. So proving myself right, is number one. Proving them wrong, would be number two. I always look at it as when I go in there that I'm trying to steal the show, regardless, and I'm not going to do 20 flips, even though I can, what I'm going to give people is something that when my match is done, they're going to say that was real. Like he hit him. He hated him. He tried to kill him. They're going to say it's real. They're never going to say it was, that I was fake. And I just think of, all the people who passed on me, all the people who wouldn't book me, people who literally told me, oh, you never be shit. You never be nothing. You never go anywhere in this business. People who told me I didn't have it, People told me I'd never be anything more than an opener. And I had a lot of that crap. So proving them wrong. And then thirdly, it's just, honestly, just being in front of the people. Whether they're cheering, whether they're booing, just.
As long as they're invested.
Exactly, man. For that 10 minutes that I'm out there, just pulling them in, pulling them in and just making them believe. And then, after the show, if someone says, you know what, man, that was good. I think I want to be a wrestler. Job done.
No, absolutely. And Ashlock, I want to address your comment because this has actually happened a few times. JDX versus Monstar, and they're always such hard-hitting matches. And while JD's here, I'm sure he'll agree that even though we've seen it a few times, that rivalry is far from over.
Dude, I was trying to avoid this Zach situation. But you know what? Me and Zach were definitely not over. I don't dislike Zach. I don't hate Zach or any of that stuff. I just don't like this idea that Zach is the best, and everybody wants to be on the Monstar bandwagon. Oh, Zach overcame depression, and Zach fought back from this, and Zach is clean, and all it. So what? So what? You know what I'm saying? Like the amount of injuries that I've had to come back from, Zach ain't never did that. All of the things that I've had to do, the path I had to take to get here, Zach didn't go through that path. And I didn't have to fall in no glass or no barbed wire or no thumbtacks. I didn't have to do any of that. I didn't have to do none of that stuff. So in my mind, Zach took the cheap way.
It's pretty heavy words, JD. Some pretty heavy words. And
gotta tell it like it is.
I'm gonna stay professional. I'm gonna stay professional. But just based off of your answer, do you think you're better than? Do you think Zach is beneath you?
I know Zach's beneath me.
To play devil's advocate, he is the Riot Pro heavyweight champion. That is your promotion.
He shouldn't be, but either way,
we could go back and forth all day long. I want to be respectful of your time. So I have one other question for you before we start wrapping things up. And I want to take a chance to let everybody know about the upcoming Riot show right here, ladies and gentlemen. The Day of Reckoning, Riot Pro Wrestling, guys. You can find this all over their social media page. I know you guys follow their Facebook. You guys went and followed it when HBO was live and he was doing his thing. Or Showtime, I apologize. Sure. When Showtime was live. So I know you guys are on there. Make sure you're keeping up with everything they have going on. But JD, just based on this flyer right here, you've got Remy, Chico, you, Zach, Ray. It's looking to be a stacked card, even though matches haven't been announced yet. Going into this show, how excited are you for Riot to be hosting their next show and getting back in the ring and as you say, doing what you do better than anybody else? And why should people come check out the Riot show? Oh
man, I'm super excited. It's the anniversary show for Riot. Company that's been around for a little while. So I'm super excited. The thing that makes me most excited is really.
I didn't say a word, JD.
Thing that I'm most excited about is I know I'm finally gonna get that match with Zach. So that's the thing I'm most excited about. And I'm gonna show everybody, man, that Zach is not as great as everyone thinks he is. I've beaten Zach before. I've beaten Zach multiple times. I've beaten Zach every time. I'll beat him again.
So did we just get a little bit of a spoiler? Is it you taking on Zach one-on-one finally?
It should be.
Should be.
Yeah, it should be. Because, dude, I never lost the title, number one. I never lost it. And when you were there, you saw me beat Zach. You saw me.
No. I saw you and your squad come out, jump Zach, get boots to faces. One got chokeslammed into a concussion, and then with loophole tactics and the power of the GM, I saw you walk away with the title, but I didn't see you win the title. I know we agreed to be professional, JD. I just got to call a spade a spade.
Look, dude, as far as them coming out, I didn't have nothing to do with that. I was declared the number one contender. Zach's supposed to be a fighting champion. He fought. He lost. Into that. Either way.
Speaking of Showtime. Here he is.
There we go. Some backup.
You can't honestly sit here and expect us to believe you did not know they were going to come out with you.
Dude, I had nothing to do with it.
So you're saying that whole thing wasn't preconceived?
Why would it be preconceived? What? Dude, why would I do something like that?
Because you wanted the title. Whoever holds the is it true? Is it true that in pro wrestling, whoever holds the title, whoever wins the title, whoever leaves as champion, leaves with a bigger purse?
That is true.
So why wouldn't you want to do that? And you've admitted to yourself that you're not a bad guy, you're just who you are. So if that's the kind of person that you are, I apologize, the kind of wrestler that you are, why wouldn't you do that? And if Showtime, the general manager, walks up to you and says, hey, let's do this, why wouldn't you do it? It's more money.
It's just, dude, it's not about money. Maybe some people, that's what it's about. For me, it's not about money. All right. For me, it's about the fact of being the best. I know I'm better than Zach. I know I am. I've been screwed out of the title multiple times. As a matter of fact, I never even lost the title. Not, I wasn't pinned. No, I never even lost the title. So, as far as that goes, I was declared the number one contender. Zach is supposed to be a fighting champion. I fought Zach. Zach lost. I didn't jump Zach. I only touched him once the bell rung. And when the bell rung again, I was champion.
I will say that you should be the number one contender. You had two matches that night. In your first one, you did win fair and square the number one contender match. I see that. But everything that happened after that, we're going to have to agree to disagree, or else we'll be on here all night. You guys had your tag match, which Zach Monstar and Johnny Rudo won the tag titles. They walked in as challengers, left as champions.
Yeah,
but to this point,
people ran out of the back and jumped us. Did you forget about that part, or are we just not going to mention that?
I mean, we can mention it, but we'll have to mention that the same guys who jumped Zach first ran out before the Booyah Club and everybody else.
Now you just get into unnecessary details. Now,
how is it unnecessary? You want to bring up them, but you don't want to bring up yours.
I thought this was going to be professional. Now you're just being biased.
No, you're right. I want to be professional, but part of being professional is saying the facts. Ray and his team ran out first, and then Booyah Club and Bud Heavy and all of them ran out second. Can we agree on that?
No, we can't. You ever thought about working for Fox News? Because the way you put spin on things, man, I think you would be perfect.
Well, if anybody wants to go back and check, that footage is on twitch.tv/HillKevin, and you can decide for yourself who is telling the truth or who's grasping at straws. But JD, if you do end up taking on Zach one-on-one for the title, despite him being my friend, I do wish you the best of luck. I know it'll be a hard-hitting match, regardless of who I think will win. I think it'll be a great match.
Who do you think?
I'll say that. I think it'll be a great match.
Who do you think will win?
I've seen Zach run through your entire squad, and you still had to use a title to get a 3 count. So I've never seen you come at Zach one-on-one. And the only time you did come at him fair, they walked away with your titles. So I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'd have to say Zach.
You got any other questions?
Just one. Because I can tell you're getting irritated. I can tell you want to get out of here. For anybody who would like to follow you or find you on social media, where can they find you on social media?
That's the easy one. On Facebook, JD Dalton. Twitter, Real JDX. IG, The JDX.
There you go, guys. There's all of JD's social medias. And JD, despite how the end of the end of the interview happened, I do sincerely want to thank you for your time, and I appreciate you making the time to do this interview. And I do look forward to the show coming up with Riot Day of Reckoning, and hopefully I'll be able to be there and watch you wrestle, whether it be against Zach or anybody else. I do wish you the best of luck in your upcoming matches, and I can't wait to see him.
Thank you for that, and I hope you are there to see me whip his ass.
Well, I'll be there, and JD, thank you so much. Guys, we are going to go ahead and end the interview. Like I said, I do want to thank JD for his time. We'll be back next week with another pro wrestling interview. The Real Pro Wrestling Women's Champion, Kelsey Reagan, will join me live this coming Thursday, 7 p.m., for another pro wrestling interview. JD, if you're not too upset, I would like one more second of your time when the live feed ends, but I understand if you want to go ahead and leave. But with that being said, guys, thank you all for being here. We'll see you next week when Kelsey Reagan joins us live in the War Room. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.